嗨，大家好，我是伸展，your host of Lunch and Learn，欢迎大家来参加我们的午间中文。It's a little bit of a mix of Chinese and English because we really truly want to make this accessible to everyone who's interested in Chinese language and culture at any level. I'm here with Yongqiang. Where's Yongqiang? Yongqiang, your camera is on, right? But you're muted.
I'm here. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Yongqiang is behind the scene to work with everyone in terms of registration and communication. So 谢谢大家 ，Thank you. 参加我们的午间中文。And also I want to thank everyone who has responded to the survey. It's really great to hear your feedback and suggestions. We are going to summarize the feedbacks and response for our next session on June 4th, which is quite open in terms of the format for our next one in June. It's going to be the last one for this season before we are heading to the summer break. But I would love to hear your suggestions for the last session. Typically, we have, for the past 2 seasons, we had a sort of the participants would select your favorite poem to read instead of we learn a new one. I have been sort of thinking we've been learning and inviting wonderful guest speakers to learn more about the cultural aspects, which has been really great. But we have rarely had time to get into the break room to practice pronunciation. So perhaps, well, for the June session, Yongqiang and I, we are debating whether we should make the June session more of a pronunciation and reading, read aloud practicing session. But of course, well, welcome your suggestions. As a reminder, I can see a lot of old friends coming in. There are quite a few still in the wait room. Yongqiang, if you could please let everybody in. As a reminder, we are recording this, make it accessible on our YouTube channel. And from the feedback, actually, it's really a plus for everyone who can join later to know what the previous sessions were about. And also, if you have any feedbacks, the survey is not the only time you communicate with us. Welcome your voice through emails, and hopefully we can see each other in person at some point. But as the online, the virtual format has been working really well with everyone, we do plan to continue this virtually for future sessions. But we're talking about perhaps after the summer break for the 4th season. So let me share my screen right now. Let's jump into the poem right away. This is not the poem. One second. 今天我们要读的是约课。I have to move this so that you can see the full screen. 我们要读的诗是约课 appointment. It's a very simple poem, like every poem we have read. But we have a special guest speaker, Ryan Li 老师 today, who will share something that I have no knowledge about, literally have no knowledge. I will introduce him later, but for now, let's see what the poem is about. 约课. So for new friends, I will, for old friends as well. I will read the entire poem first. Let's jump into the read aloud part. And I would invite you to also look at the English translation, as we don't have much time to go over the meanings of the words and the lines, and can perhaps briefly touch upon some of them. All right, so let's start. 约客，黄梅时节家家雨，青草池塘处处蛙。有约不来过夜半，闲敲棋子落灯花。That's the entire poem. Don't worry, we will read word by word, line by line later. This is just to get a sense of how the entire poem sounds like.
What dynasty is the author? Zhao Shixiu.
Zhao Shixiu, right. I will get into that in a moment.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. I also want to thank Yongqiang for finding the translation, which we talked about the English translation last session. This one, I find it's really word to word, but also keeping the rhythm, the rhyme, and make it really succinct, like the Chinese version of the poem. So, 约客. And the author 作者是赵诗秀. We have read a lot of Tang poems from Tang Dynasty, which was from about 8th century to 10th century. This poem, it's a heptasyllabic, 七言绝句 quatrain, 4 lines, 7 characters. Each word is a character, 7 characters, 4 lines. So it's a very basic heptasyllabic quatrain format. And we have learned quite a few from Tang Dynasty. So this one, as we can see, the author Zhao Shixiu is from 12th to 13th century Song Dynasty. It is one of the most powerful, well, I wouldn't say powerful, but significantly impactful dynasty in China after Tang Dynasty. It's in fact quite militarily weak. Some of you may remember this map from Song Dynasty. We have looked into this when we were learning Li Qingzhao, 词. It's a type of poem that has lines which has different characters in each line instead of the poem that we are reading. Each line we have 7 characters. So this is the map roughly showcasing the Song Dynasty that we can see. It's divided into Bei Song, the northern Song, and Nan Song. I was saying it was a militarily weak dynasty because the dynasty, the empire, was under constant threat from the northern nomads. In fact, in the year of 1126, the court was forced to move its capital from here, Kaifeng, which is the current day name of the city, of the capital back in Song, northern Song, to Hangzhou, to the south, because the north part was taken by Jin Dynasty, established by a northern nomad group. And this event has influenced many of the poems, including Li Qingzhao we have read. So this is just to give a very brief background of Song Dynasty while it's militarily rather weak, culturally, it's known to have cities thriving with all kinds of activities, economically and culturally. To see the prosperity and the quite well-known urbanization of Song Dynasty, the best known evidence is this painting, 清明上河图. 清明上河图 by Zhang Zeduan. This is only part of the painting. I will actually get out of this PowerPoint to, let me see if I can get out of this, to go into the full. This is also part of the painting. It's altogether, in fact, over 5 meters long. This is the entire painting that is meticulously capturing the detailed activities of the northern capital, the capital that the court was forced to escape from. If we zoom in, we can see the part that what we just showed in the PowerPoint. It's a bridge with all kinds of people, the vendors, the boat in the river, and the kind of details that you can see, including the donkeys, the sedan that two persons were carrying, showing the kind of activities people would engage during Qingming festival. That's in general around April, that people would go out to enjoy the spring season, the warm weather, while show their respect to their ancestors, to the ancestral shrines. And that's also a lot of the markets would open and engaging with a lot of business during that time. So if we go back, we can see, so you can see the moving of the painting, right? Through the river, and that's actually outside of the city. Soon you will see there's a gate that with more carriages and people going in and out of the gate, and the buildings, restaurants, and you can even see the banners of the restaurants, the umbrellas. So this incredible painting really shows how the kind of urban life in the capital of Northern Song Dynasty people would enjoy. This is while we are reading the poem, I would like to share this to perhaps visually creating some kind of background image for the time that the author and the poem were living in. By the way, this painting now is in the Beijing, the Forbidden City Museum. So if eventually we can travel back and forth, this is a piece that's worth a trip, I would say. All right, now let's get back to the poem. Now, I would like to invite everyone to read the poem word by word, line by line with me. Please mute yourself for this part, because I would encourage you to read it out really with me, and we can have an uninterrupted experience. So I will read twice. The first time I will pause after each word, and the second time I will pause after the entire line. You can see the highlighted translation right under the character is just the literal translation for each character. And the poetic translation would be the second line. All right. 黄梅时节家雨黄梅时节家雨 And you may wonder, what is yellow plum time? It's roughly around April and May in southern China, because during that time, the plum is maturing, and it is a time that a lot of rain in the southern part of China. So instead of directly saying it is the raining season or the April-May season, it's often referred as 黄梅时节. And the next one, 青草池塘处蛙青草池塘处蛙有约不来过夜半有约不来过夜半弦敲棋子落灯花弦敲棋子落灯花 That's it. As usual, quatrains are very short. So how about the entire poem together? 约客黄梅时节家雨青草池塘处蛙有约不来过夜半弦敲棋子落灯花 For some of you who may like the challenge, maybe you can read and see if you can read it without pinyin. How about we take this challenge together? All right, 约客赵诗秀黄梅时节家雨
黄梅时节家雨
很好青草池塘处蛙
青草
池塘处处蛙，
有约不来过夜半，
有约
不来过夜半，
闲敲棋子落灯花。
尖敲
落灯花。
很好. So maybe for the June session, I would invite you to read without me leading and without pinyin.
好，
好的，我听见了。All right, so now I want to concentrate on the last two lines. 有约不来过夜半，闲敲棋子落灯花。棋 is one of the key words for today and especially for our second part. Let's take a look at the original form of qi, the character. This is from the oracle bones, which were discovered during Shang Dynasty. That's from 1600 to 1046 BC. So we could imagine that the character itself was created much earlier than that. And qi, as we can see in the translation, it's the casual drumming of chess piece. 棋子. So qi here is at least a kind of chess game. And in the original form, we can see these are actually two hands, left and right, holding something like a basket. And there are pieces you put in the basket, holding the basket and shaking in order to play a certain kind of game to win or to choose the winner. And that's the pictographic image of the game itself. And over time, the character itself has evolved. This is from around 100 AD. And we can see that even though there are still some elements similar, there is a wooden part underneath, and there seems to be a table or a shelf, while the basket can be still placed on top of it. And today, the form is the one on the very right, qi. And today, it actually refers to all kinds of board game, including chess and including the game we're going to introduce today. And I want to also, for some of you who have been following Lunch and Learn, you would be familiar with these three cultural items. The first one, can anyone tell me? 有没有人知道？琴，对了，琴。The seven zither, the seven string zither. And this one, 这是什么？书法 calligraphy. And this one? 画，对的 brush painting. So we often heard 琴棋书画. So in addition to 琴, 书, and 画 we covered this season, there is 棋, and altogether 琴棋书画 are the most quintessential Chinese arts that are expected, especially for Chinese scholars in a traditional sense. In fact, it's a tradition since 4th century. Being a scholar meant one has to master all of these four art forms. Qin, of course, refers to music, and shu, I would like to think that it's not only the calligraphy part, it's the writing, the content is also important part of this form. And brush painting the visual art, that all of them are well connected, as what we often mention, the poem is closely connected to music in order to rhyme. And oftentimes when you see brush painting, you will see calligraphy go together with the painting. So how about qi? And I just mentioned I have no knowledge of qi in order to how to play it, especially the one that we're going to introduce today. But I can say that unlike the other three that we mentioned, qi tends to directly refer to the art of intellectual thinking and strategizing itself. So we are going to talk about qi. And this is the qi we're going to invite our guest speaker, who is an expert of this game, because this qi is the qi in qinqi shu hua. There are many kinds of board games or other kind of games, but when we are talking about qin, qi, shu, hua, we are talking about qi in this form. So now I will stop sharing and I would invite Ryan Li, Li 老师. So you can see Li 老师on the screen. Li 老师, Ryan is a professional Go player. So the qi that we saw just now is Chinese Go. And also he is the vice president of New York Institute of Go. Well, Ryan perhaps can tell more, but the institute was founded in 2016 as an educational center to give classes, organize tournament, workshops, to educate students of all ages how to play Go, as well as the Go spirit, the Go philosophy. And I also have to share that Ryan is not only a professional Go player, vice president of the Institute, and he's also a PhD in atmospheric sciences from Yale University. And he will share a little bit more about how the intellectual part connection between playing Go and his PhD pursuit, perhaps. So with that, I will turn the screen to Ryan, please.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
可以。
Yes.
That's great. Can you see my screen?
可以。
Perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan Li. My Chinese name is Li Yan. Thank you so much, Shenzhen, for giving me the opportunity to introduce Go today. And as Shenzhen has introduced very nicely, this poem that mentions the kind of the boredom of waiting for someone, waiting for an appointment, but someone never showing up, and also the very vividly describing how the person playing Go by themselves. And so today I'm going to introduce Go to everyone. So there is one original legend for the game of Go. So over 4,000 years ago, one of the 5 emperors, Yao, he had a son named Danzhu, over here. But the problem was even when Danzhu was in his teens, he was too playful and he didn't like to think very much. And Yao was worried and wanted to train Danzhu to be a good emperor. So the legend says that Yao actually invented Go, Wei Qi, and taught that to Danzhu. So at first, Danzhu kept failing. So Yao said to him, "This is because you do not like to plan ahead. Leading an army is like playing a game of Go. and you must lay out your troops and develop tactics. Otherwise, you cannot win. So Danzhu became less happy, but he became a great general and good Go player. So the game that Yao taught Danzhu became an integral part of Chinese culture. Of course, this was 4,000 years ago. The language and written dialects were still in its primary stages, but this is one of the legends that says how Go originated, which was over 4,000 years ago. So Go is an integral part of the four arts, and Go references, as we saw in today's poem, are very common in written pieces in China. There are actually 21 synonyms for the game of Go, and each one has its unique legend or vivid story, just like the one that I've told you that to go with it. So these are some examples of the synonyms that are used to describe the game of Go. The most popular being 对弈. This means sort of like exchanging your skill. So it's like exchanging your mental capacity with another, where you're playing a game against one another and showing your skills. And the second one is named 烂柯. This one's very interesting because this means sudden acts in a direct translation. And I will go into a little bit more detail of why that might be. The next one is called 方圆, which is square round. It's just describing a square and round, just two shapes. And soon you will see why that is. Actually, you can kind of see that in the picture here, right? You have the wooden board, which is a square, and then the circle pieces. And then you have all these other similar names for the game of Go. Sorry, I can't really read the chat because of the Zoom, but I'd be happy to answer questions at the end. One of the favorite legends, though, that I have with Go is called the 烂柯 legend. 烂, the fourth sound, and 柯, the first sound. Sorry, I'm not very good at translating between Chinese and English as Shenzhen. I'm not very experienced, so I apologize for that. And I'm trying to I'll try to refer back to the two languages, but for now, I guess I will stick to English. So the 蓝柯 legend is about a farmer Wang. He climbed a mountain to gather firewood. But on his usual route, he is attracted by the sound of stones touching wood. And that led him through a cave opening where he sees two elders playing Go. So he sets his equipment aside and he begins to watch them play. But little does he know, so as he watches and the game finishes, he had forgotten about the whole purpose of the trip. But when he went back to pick up his axe, the handle was soddened and the head was rusted. But once he picked that up, when he returned to the village, no one recognized him. And only then did he realize that actually decades have passed after he watched this one game of Go. So the 蓝柯 legend, it's basically describing a person watching two immortals playing Go, in which, according to legend, one day of their time is equal to hundreds of years of Earth time. And the legend later became an expression for someone focusing so intently, only to realize after that a lot of time has passed. And many poetic pieces refer to Go as 蓝柯, like the sudden axe that he set aside when it rusted. This is actually a famous tourist attraction in China. It's in Chongzhou, Zhejiang province. Oops, sorry. And that's another reason, that's another place to go to when you visit China. So, what is Go? Go looks something like this. there are white pieces and there are black pieces, and players take turn playing on it. It's actually a relatively simple game. So it's a two-player game, and you play and you take turns putting your own pieces on the intersection points of this 19 by 19 board. There are 19 intersections across and 19 intersections down. It is the oldest board game still played in its original form. There are 3 sets of simple rules, but there are endless possibilities, and to date, there has been no single duplicate game played unintentionally. But Go is actually easy, and today I will show you the basic rules of Go. So the first rule is about playing the game, and as I mentioned, you start with an empty board. Black plays first, and both players take turns putting their own pieces somewhere on the board. You could actually play anywhere you'd like. And so you start from the empty board. These are numbered, sort of showing the order in which the stones are played. And eventually you might arrive at a situation like this. The second rule is about capture. And this rule says that if you put for any stone on the board, there are some directions that it possesses. If all of the directions or liberties are filled by the opposing stones, then that stone gets captured. So that soldier that you placed will get captured, is now a prisoner for your opponent. And these are all of the adjacent places on the board. The diagonals don't count. So that's the second essential rule about Go. If any piece on the board is completely surrounded, it gets captured by the opposing player. And the third rule is a little bit more complicated. It's about illegal moves. In Go, you can play anywhere you want, except in illegal points. Illegal points are where when you put a stone there, it automatically gets captured. So you're not allowed to play a stone somewhere in which your stone gets captured right away. So this is a follow-up from the previous rule, where if you want to play a stone there, you have to check, well, does my stone have any freedom left? If it doesn't, then it gets removed. Then you're actually not allowed to play in those places. And A and B are examples of illegal moves by white. So this is the third rule. It's a little bit more complicated, but as you play the game, you'll realize once you know what captures are, you'll realize which are the illegal places. And there's a bit of a continuation of this rule, in which that you're not allowed to repeat the game indefinitely. This is just to save the game from going on forever. Because in this example, if white captures the one stone, plays right here, white playing the stone 1 removes the black stone because that black stone has no liberties. You can imagine if black it's black's turn, right? You play 1 move at a time. And if black plays move 2 here on the right figure, black would capture the stone, but then the game would never end because the position has been exactly repeated. So this next rule goes against this forever repetition. So actually, after you know these 3 rules, you can play. And the goal of the game is to conquer the most territory, to get the most land, more land than your opponent. But in order to do so, you have to fight. As I mentioned, when your pieces get surrounded, they get captured. You can surround your opponent's pieces, and you can capture their pieces as well. And sort of like conquering the most land of a region. So Go is actually very helpful. There are many benefits from playing Go. One is that there's no hierarchy, right? Every piece that you play is the same. So you have to know where to place them to fit them the best together. And you have to devise your own strategies because every game is different. and you have to know what good shapes to make with your existing stones on the board. And you have to have good judgment about what is rational and which decisions are the best for each move. Go is very complicated, right? And it typically, even though the rules are very simple, it can take a lifetime to master. So this I got from Wikipedia. This is the total number of atoms in the known observable universe. This is between 10 to the 78 to 10 to the 82. And guess how many variations are there in Go? There are way too many. So this is 10 followed by 768 zeros. So Go is a very complicated game. And to give you a comparison, this is the total number of variations in chess. And Go recently has been talked about a lot, and that is because Go was the only game that was beyond the scope of computers. Until very recently, Google DeepMind, they introduced AlphaGo, which was the artificial intelligence that defeated, for the first time, the human world champion in 2016. And this was the event. Actually, Stephanie, the president of the New York Institute Go, was a commentator at the event in 2017. And this was the announcement. And being the academic nerd I am, here are the 2 Nature papers they published if you were interested in checking that out. So Go is a very international game. I mean, Go first originated in China, but there are Go clubs and Go associations all over the world now. As you can see, all of the little flags here is a Go association. And these pictures show you like sort of a flavor of the Go in different countries. This is a picture of the the current champion in China, also world champion Ke Jie, holding a big paycheck. Go in Japan, World Go, the US Go Congress, which is an annual Go event every year. There's also an annual European Go Congress, and there are different environments of exciting Go players. And also some well-known Go players. We have Bill Gates, who in an interview, he said, when I was young, when he was young, he wanted to be the world's best Go player as well. And Albert Einstein, who was also awarded an honorary dance certificate after he started to play Go after his appointment in Princeton. And John Nash was also a famous Go player who's famous for the Nash equilibrium. And it was an idea inspired by Go. And so that's it. Thank you so much for listening. I will be happy to take questions. Here are some resources for us if you're interested in learning more about Go. Thanks.
谢谢 Ryan. Well, there are already a few questions in the chat room. And also I would invite anyone who have questions. Well, Ryan, if you could stay for a few more minutes. Sarah Lee asked if there is an app for Go so that you can play on the phone like some other games like Mahjong.
Yeah. There are multiple apps for Go. A good one to start off is just called Online Go. It's actually just a browser, and here maybe I can send a link in the chat. And it's just a website where anyone can register for free, and you can play Go.
Mm-hmm. And is Go, the English name Go, coming from Japanese, Ryan?
Go is the international name for the game. So as we know, in Chinese we call it Weiqi or Qi, or the 21 other names that I mentioned. In Japan it's called Ego, and in Korean it's called Padu. So there are multiple different names, and Go is the overall international name.
Yeah, thank you.
Who decided that? May we ask?
I don't know.
Might be good to find out.
Yeah,
Especially since this is a language program. Just a thought.
Or we can, and what we can say, at China Institute, we would just call it Weiqi.
yeah. We should just call it Weiqi. Yeah, get everyone to call it Weiqi.
A few more questions. Can you, Ryan, perhaps talk a little bit about the cultural significance, the difference of the cultural significance between Shangqi and Weiqi?
Sure.
Like
Yeah, that's a very good question. And sometimes when the Xiangqi is Chinese chess, and it's definitely another very popular game that's often in the category of qi. So Xiangqi is very similar to chess. Right? Of course, the rules are different, but it's similar in that you start with a set board position. Right? You start with all of your pieces, and then you play until the pieces are gone. Right? You have to checkmate them. You have to capture their king. There's one central goal. Go is different from these two types of chess because you start with an empty board and you start to build from the empty board. Even though there is one overarching goal is to have the most territory in Go, but you can do that however you want. You can sacrifice your pieces in order to get bigger placements. And so there are very flexible strategies in Go that are not allowed in these two chess games because, well, if your king dies and you get checkmated, then you lose. So to me, that's the main difference between Go and chess.
And well, chess seems to have a long history as well. Do we know if Go or Weiqi is older than Shangqi?
Yeah, because we know that from actually exactly what we learned today is that these poems and these poetic references, also artwork, they all refer to Go and not chess. Chess actually is sort of, I think it's a branch from Chinese chess is as a branch from chess. I'm not an expert on Chinese chess, so I shouldn't say too much about that. But it occurred much later, and it's essentially different from Go.
And I just want to comment as what you were sharing and presenting about Weiqi. It's just so, as the rules are so simple, and also the game, the materials are also so simple, black and white, and the board with 19 sort of the lines, well, both directions. Yet it can generate all kinds of almost unlimited possibilities and varieties. That, to me, I feel it really reminds me of the word 大道至简. The Tao, the way, is really simple, yet it encompasses everything in it. So culturally, I feel that's quite different from Xiangqi, the Chinese chess, which is more of you're. Of course, it has many different strategies and it's endless as well, but it's more concrete in certain ways that you are imagining the two armies playing against each other across the Chuhe and Hanjie, the river, the borders. Yeah. So, but
great comment. Yeah, I completely agree.
Perhaps one last question, Ryan. Someone, I saw this question just a moment ago. what does it mean to be a professional Go player?
For a professional player, you have to be certified in association, and normally a professional Go player means that you can make a living off of Go, and that's typically the case in Asian countries where players devote their whole lives on the game, and thinking about strategies, competing in tournaments, and teaching. Yeah. In the concept in the U.S. is a little bit different. You can be certified, but you have to pass a very hard exam. But the concept in terms of the time commitment is more liberal, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are questions keep popping up, Ryan. There's two more, really. The last
two. I can answer them. Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Two more questions. Yeah, can you see it? Oh, there's one. That's where is the Institute for Learning?
The Institute for Learning.
Your institute.
Are you asking about like where to learn Go? We teach Go at the New York Go Institute of Go, for all levels and all ages. So and also we have held classes actually that with China Institute until things got in the way. So we provide a lot of that. So also there are a lot of good online resources. Like if you're interested, you can check out our YouTube channel. You can also check out some free resources on our website.
Mm-hmm. And maybe Ryan, if you could just put your link in the chat room. If anyone is interested, they can just click on it. And as well, Ryan is doing that. I also want to remind for everyone, Yongqiang, if you could please put our survey link in the chat room. If you have a moment, you can also click on that survey, and we'd appreciate your feedback on this session or any sessions of the program. The recording is available for review on China Institute's YouTube channel. So you can always, if you have to go, or we are actually getting to the end of today's session, again, without much time to practice the pronunciation part, and we probably would save it for the next one. Thank you, 谢谢 Ryan, for your time and sharing your expertise and your passion about Weiqi. And also with this session, complete our introduction of Qinqi, Shuhua, the 4 quintessential art forms in Chinese culture. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope everyone enjoyed my presentation.
Very enjoyable, Ryan. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, really clear. Thank you so much.
Seems overwhelming, though.
Yes, overwhelming.
Yeah.
Thanks for your humor.
Great. All right, 谢谢 Ryan, and thank you for everyone joining today's session. And I hope to see everyone next time. June 4th would be our next and last Lunch and Learn.